Yes. So nice. Gopijana Ballava Giribarat Hare. It's okay. Gopijana Ballava Giribarat Hare. Yashodanandan Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandan Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare. Gopijana Ballava Giribarat Hare. Yashodanandan Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandan Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jamstvad Paramahansa Piravrajacharya Tasismad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki, Sri Sri Nitai Gaura Hare Ki, Sri Gopanima Mahotsava Ki, Sri Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki, Sri Sri Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to their Soma devotees. All glories to their Soma devotees. All glories to their Soma devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All of you devotees, Ki Jai. Aplog Sub Ki Jai. Devotees, Hare Krishna. How nice, how really nice to be here with you all again. And thank you for coming. We're continuing our seminar, lessons from the pastimes of Lord Caitanya. And don't forget, those of you who are officially, anyone can come, it's no problem. But those of you who are officially registered for the seminar, there will be a test. Yeah, there will be a test. And there will be prizes which will make the test worthwhile. I tell you what, all the others who are not registered they'll kick themselves and say, why didn't I register? Oh gosh. Okay. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Right, so on Friday we began the seminar and we told three stories, three pastimes, which were pastimes in which Lord Krishna was there, and in each of the pastimes, Lord Krishna revealed himself as Lord Caitanya, but although it was a long time actually before Lord Caitanya actually appeared. So three stories. This evening, what we'll do, we'll see how it goes, but we'll start by discussing the actual appearance of Lord Caitanya. What happened when he appeared? It's very interesting, and there are all sorts of just interesting little sort of elements in the pictures, some of which you might not be familiar with. But in order to begin, I am going to read two verses from Chaitanya Bhagavat of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, as translated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, It's very interesting. He did a complete translation with purports of the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat and not Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyway, interesting. Prabhupada, of course, did the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, but anyway, I'm going to read 2 verses. The Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Kanda means Adi Lila, chapter 3, verse 49, and then verse 50. And these verses, their particular significance is they are what we call phala stutis, phala or pala stutis, phala meaning the fruit or the result, and stuti meaning a prayer. So they're prayers which describe the result of hearing, in this case, about the appearance of Lord Caitanya. How's that? Yeah, you get them in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Not as much as in Chaitanya Bhagavat. There's really a lot of them in Chaitanya Bhagavat, usually at the ends of different pastimes. Then the author says that anyone who hears this will get certain mercy, you could say. Okay, so here we go. First of all, verse 49. Gora Chandra Avirbhava Shune Ye Jane Kabu Duka Nahitara Janme Va Marane. Listen to this. Whoever hears about the appearance of Lord Gaurachandra will never feel distress, either during this lifetime or at the time of death. How's that? That's a nice benediction, isn't it? Blessing. Of course, we got to hear about these things. I mean, we've got to really give our attention, tune in. So that's particularly about this pastime here about Lord Chaitanya's appearance. But then the next verse is a more general blessing, benediction. Shunile Chaitanya Kata Bhakti Paladhare Janme Janme Chaitanyera Sange Avatare. By hearing the topics of Sri Chaitanya, one attains the fruit of devotional service to the Supreme Lord and accompanies the Lord in his pastimes, life after life. How's that? 2 blessings, very interesting blessings, very profound blessings. Okay, so let's get into it, devotees. The appearance of Lord Caitanya. And we will take passages, we'll read a few passages, we'll just paraphrase a few passages from Chaitanya Charitamrita particularly, but also Chaitanya Bhagavat and also Chaitanya Mangala. Each one has certain interesting things. So, okay, Lord Caitanya appeared as the son of Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi. But before he appeared, they had already had other children. In fact, Mother Sachi had given birth to 8 daughters prior to the appearance not just of Lord Caitanya, but of his older brother, Vishvarup. So Lord Caitanya was the 10th, actually. So, but what happened with all these girls, 8 daughters in a row, was they all passed away. They all died just after taking birth. And, I'm sure you can, particularly ladies who are mothers, and just any of us, I'm sure we can appreciate what an experience that must be. It's one thing to lose one child, as happens sometimes, but 8? Sure, in a row? My gosh. So, but that's what happened. The thing is, though, just, a little bit of background information. These were 8 children of Devaki and Vasudev. Yeah. And they appeared again in the pastimes of Lord Caitanya. So, but then they carried on, and they had another child that was a boy, Vishvarup, who is Lord Balaram. Yes, Lord Balaram. He appeared as the 9th child, and he lived. He did not pass away at that time. So he was the older brother of Lord Caitanya. So, and he lived, but what he did, he took sannyas at an early age and left home, which was disturbing, particularly to Mother Sachi. So, but Lord Caitanya appeared when Vishvarup was just a small boy. So later on, when Vishvarup took sannyas and left home and was never seen again, at least in Navadvip or by his parents, Lord Caitanya took a vow. This is where jumping ahead in the pastimes, and you will not be questioned on this in the test. Lord Caitanya took a vow that I've seen you're so distressed by the taking of sannyas and departure from home of Vishvarup. So don't worry, I will not do that to you. I will stay. Hare Krishna. Anyway, later on, he also did the same thing. What to do? Life in this material world is challenging. All right, so then Lord Caitanya entered the womb of Mother Sachi. And when he entered the womb, then Jagannath Mishra, the father, he saw all sorts of very auspicious omens, signs. We won't get into it now, but there's a whole science of omens in Vedic literature. And if you want to have a look at some or read a little bit about some, have a look in, I think it's the 14th chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. If it's not that, then just check where Lord Krishna has left this world and Maharaj Yudhisthira is seeing all these omens. And he is not aware, no one has told him that Krishna's left the world, because he's in Hastinapur, current day Delhi, whereas Lord Krishna had been in Dwaraka, down on the coast. It's a long way, about 1,500 kilometers or so. And in those days, devotees, believe it or not, you may not believe it, they didn't have WhatsApp. Gee whiz, can you? There was life before WhatsApp. So he didn't know. For weeks he didn't know. But then he was seeing all these omens, like inauspicious creatures passing him on his left side. In the case of a male, shivering of the body, sometimes you get these twinges and things, shivering of the left side. For ladies, shivering of the left side is an auspicious omen. Something good is about to happen. Anyway, like I said, we won't go into it, but if you want to find out a little more, just find that chapter. I think it's the 14th. Is it the 14th? Anyway, whatever, it's around there. And you can learn a bit more about omens. So, Jagannath Mishra came running to Mother Sachi and said, I see all these wonderful things happening, just for no apparent reason. He says, people just walk up to me and give me money. Really. They give me riches, cloth. They offer respect. They bow down before me. And he was not really a person who was generally bowed down to, although he was a devotee and a great devotee, but for householders, it was not common for people, even if they're like good devotees, not so common that people would bow down to them, but these things were happening. And then Mother Sachi said, I have been getting visions. When I just look up into the sky, I see people in the sky, and they're offering prayers to me. They're offering prayers to me. What is going on? Something is happening. Something very special. And then Jagannath Mishra said, you know what happened? I saw the abode of the Lord enter my heart, and then it was transferred from my heart into your heart and then into your womb. So I think you're going to give birth to some really, really special child. So anyway, then, yes, Mother Sachi became pregnant or was pregnant. And devotees, would you believe, she remained pregnant. She did not give birth for 13 months. Yes, that's a long time. I don't think such things happen. It's sort of 9 or 10 months or something like that. But this is 13 months. Not as bad as Shukadev Goswami. 16 years in the womb of his mother. And he came out as a fully developed 16-year-old. Any of you ladies who have given birth, you think about that. Those of you who haven't, it's okay. So, yeah. So they were very apprehensive. They were worried. What is happening? What is going on? But Mother Sachi's father, Nilamba Chakravarti, father, Nilamba Chakravarti, he was a big Brahmin, scholar and priest. He did all Brahminical things. No, he wasn't just a devotee who chants Hare Krishna. He did yagyas, all different types of yagyas. He did horoscopes. He did palm readings and these types of things, all sorts of things of that type. He did samskars, different ceremonies for times of transition in a person's life, times of transition, like the time of conception is a real time of transition. The birth of a child is a real time of transition. The first hair cutting of a child, time of transition. And of course, some devotees do these samskars for other devotees, but we often do, quite often, the first grains. I've done a lot of first grain ceremonies, loads of them. I guess I should have counted, but dozens and dozens, really. They're fun. They're nice. At least when the child doesn't cry too much, or doesn't cry. Yeah. So he was like that. He was into all these types of ceremonies, and he actually had real insight in terms of people's characters just by reading their palms or astrological readings. Yeah, he was an astrologer also. So after 13 months, he came and told his daughter Sachi and Jagannath Mishra, don't worry, your child is going to appear just now coming. Yes. So then I'm going to read actually a few verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which talk in a little detail about the actual appearance of Lord Caitanya. This is now Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 13. Chapter 13. Okay, so I'll just read the translations. So now Lord Caitanya is going to appear. This is verse 91 of chapter 13 of the Adi Leela. When the spotless moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became visible, what would be the need for a moon full of black marks on its body? Considering this, Rahu, the black planet, covered the full moon, and immediately vibrations of Krishna, Krishna, Hari inundated the three worlds. What vibrations? Krishna, Krishna, Hari, Hari. Not like that. I mean, come on, They were excited. Krishna, Krishna, Hari. Krishna, Krishna, Hari. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's more like it. Right. All people thus chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra during the lunar eclipse, and their minds were struck with wonder. When the whole world was thus chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in the form of Gaura Hari, advented himself on the earth. The whole world was pleased, while the Hindus chanted the holy name of the Lord. The non-Hindus, especially the Muslims, jokingly imitated the words. Yes, so they got into it too. While all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari on earth, in the heavenly planets, dancing and music were going on. For the demigods were very curious. In this atmosphere, all the 10 directions became jubilant, as did the waves of the rivers. Moreover, all beings moving and non-moving were overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. Thus, by his causeless mercy, the full moon, Gaura Hari, rose in the district of Nadia, which is compared to Udayagiri, where the sun first becomes visible. His rising in the sky dissipated the darkness of sinful life, and thus the 3 worlds became joyful and chanted the holy name of the Lord. So what happened was, it's basically mentioned there, but what happened was there was a lunar eclipse at the time that Lord Caitanya was to appear, take birth, appear. Yes. And the practice was in those days in India that, it's not the practice now, to be quite frank. I've been in a few eclipses in India. When there was a solar eclipse, when we were last there, it was October. It was October. It was October, yeah. Partial solar eclipse in the late afternoon. Very interesting. Yeah. See the sun partially covered. But no one was going and bathing in, these places. The times have changed. But in those days, it was the normal practice when there was an eclipse, either of the sun or the moon. In this case, it was the moon. It was in the evening. Then people would go to some sacred river, some sacred body of water, and they would bathe. Actually, they would bathe for the entire time of the eclipse, from just before it started till just after it finished. Because generally, not just generally, but actually, eclipses are inauspicious. There's negativity in the air. For us as devotees, we don't worry about it so much. But on that day, maybe maybe none of you were with us in India at that time, but we had a whole group of devotees with us. And the day of the eclipse, it was the day for us to visit Nandagram. Yeah, we were staying at Govardhan. It was our day for visiting Nandagram. But you know what? Because it is the practice, traditionally, the temple in Nandagram, the main temple on top of the hill, the temple, was closed for the day. It was closed. And we went down the bottom of the hill at Nandagram. There's really nice place, Nanda Baitak, the sitting place of Nanda Maharaj. And there's a little temple there, just very small, with a picture, quite a big picture, on the altar of Nanda Maharaj with Krishna and Balaram. It was closed. And then there's another temple, Yashoda Kund, where there's a deity of Yashoda with Krishna. It was closed too. But right next to it, is Hal Bilal. You've been there? You've been there? Hal Bilal. The house. It was not closed. Because it's informal. Right. So such is life. Yeah. So anyway, it was lunar eclipse that evening. And so everybody, it was just a big, major, huge event. Everyone in that area, Mayapur, Navadvip area, they all went into the Ganges. And an eclipse, it normally takes a few hours. So for a good couple of hours, 2 or 3 or so, they were in the Ganges. And they were just chanting and chanting. What were they chanting? Okay. All right, you're tired, I know. It's all right. But we read Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare.
Thank you. Yeah. So, because that was the practice, it was the practice, but in that particular case, it was Lord Caitanya's arrangement, because his mission is to establish the chanting of the holy names. So right at that time of his actual appearance, he arranged that the chanting would go on. And it was really, really, really going on. And then he appeared in the middle of it, right at that time, during the lunar eclipse. And we read the verse there, which made the point that eclipses, what happens generally is that Rahu, the dark planet, sort of encroaches partially or completely, depending where you're looking from, over the sun or the moon, depending on what's being eclipsed. So, but devotees, the understanding now in this case is different, in that the moon, the moon, it may be up by now. Right now, it's small. The moon is small because we just had the dark moon night a few nights ago. And full moon, well, Ekadasi is Thursday, although we're observing it on Friday. And full moon is on the 7th. Gaur Purnima. It's the next full moon on the 7th, on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Right, so the moon, of course, is silvery in color. Basically, it's silvery in color. But Lord Caitanya, he is known as Gaura Chandra. Gaura means golden, and Chandra means moon. Yes, he is the golden moon. And gold. Who needs silver when you can get gold? Silver, it's not special compared to gold. I don't know relatively actually the difference in price. But, it's, I don't know, even 10, 20, 30 times. I mean, you could even look and see the cost per ounce. But there's a very big difference in the value of silver and the value of gold. So now, what was just mentioned there, just touched on, is that the silver moon knew that the golden moon of Lord Caitanya was going to appear. So the silver moon felt embarrassed that I'm going to look sort of cheap. Yeah, I'm going to look kind of tinny. Yeah. So what the silver moon did was hide his face so he wouldn't be embarrassed by people looking, saying, look, the golden moon of Lord Caitanya. Oh, and look at this silly silver moon. Oh my God. Reject. So therefore he hid his face, right? Because the golden moon of Lord Caitanya appeared. Yes, so that's nice. That's a very nice little perspective on it. Yeah. So the Lord appeared. The Lord appeared in the house of Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi, right in the middle of the eclipse, while the people were right in the middle of just chanting and chanting like mad, even with respect, the Muslims, who, are generally not into these things. I don't know if you heard, there was, maybe I shouldn't even say this, but there was a Muslim preacher in Durban, Ahmad Deedat. He passed away. And, in those circles, he was very famous. And he used to do things like preach, like find fault, his specialty, find fault in the Bible. Oh boy, he really got into that. Anyway, and he didn't like Hare Krishna either, although he never wrote anything about it. I remember we were doing Hari Nam on, Grey Street there. And Ahmadiyya, he had a shop around the corner, like a preaching center. And one day there we were, just going along, probably 20 of us chanting, and it's all very nice, Saturday morning. And we're approaching the corner, his shop's up around that corner. And as we were coming up, who should come down but, take a guess, Ahmadiyya. And you know what he did? He crossed the road, and he was actually going to just walk somewhere down back. We were coming this way. And he stared at us like, if looks could kill, and put his fingers in his ears. Yeah. So, but you know what happened to him? At least what I was told happened to him. He died, he had a stroke or heart attack, stroke, some event like that. And he died in his garden, wherever he was living in Durban. And his next door neighbor, or one of his next door neighbors, was a devotee. And, this happened, and she heard this happen. And there he's just, flat out in his garden and just in the process of passing away. And she went running in and chanted Hare Krishna in his ears. Anyway, don't tell them that, I tell you. They'll declare jihad on me. So yeah, Lord Caitanya appeared, and it was just really nice, just incredibly auspicious and wonderful and beautiful. Oops. And there's all sorts of really nice descriptions of the different things that happened at that time. So, the child, Lord Caitanya, was golden in color. That, to start off with, was very, very striking. Here I'm going to read a few verses actually, describing his physical appearance, what he looked like that night. So, overcome, this is actually from Chaitanya Mangala, overcome, Jagannath Mishra gazed at his son's face. The universe had no power to contain the bliss he felt in his heart. He thought, how many rising moons do I see in his face? I say his face is like the petal of a blooming lotus. His raised nose is like a sesame flower. We are not so familiar with sesame flowers, are we? But they're said to be like extremely beautiful sesame flowers. So sometimes it's said like that. I mean, more often than not, lotus flower is used, but sometimes, and sesame flower is small. So his raised nose is like a sesame flower. His fair limbs are like a flood of nectar light. Gazing at his red lips, splendid, graceful cheeks, and graceful chin, I feel great love arise within me. His neck is like a lion's neck. His shoulders are like an elephant's shoulders. His chest is broad. His arms reach to his knees. His body is made of nectar. His hips are broad. His thighs are like banana trees. His feet are like two red lotus petals. On the soles of his feet are the marks of a flag, thunderbolt, elephant goad, lotus, chariot, parasol, chamara, swastika, jambu fruit, urdhvareka, triangle, elephant, and water pot. No form is like his. His form is the sweetest nectar. Never has such a wonderful form come to the earth. His glory is more than the glory of the greatest kings of kings. So then, devotees, you know what happened? The word got out. Sachi's given birth to a child, and everyone started coming. Everyone just started. Hundreds and thousands of people came to their little house to have darshan of this child. And it was, it was just a very overwhelming scene. And all the demigods came. The demigods came. Some of them were invisible, but they cast shadows. Wow. Yeah. And some of them just assumed human forms of Brahmins, and particularly demigods and their wives. But the thing is, the demigods, this is Bengal. Everyone speaks Bengali, except like the super scholars. But now the demigods speak Sanskrit. That's, just the language they chat in. And, small talk. How are you doing? In Sanskrit. What is it? Katam bhavasi. That's how are you. And if you're speaking to a friend, Katam bhavasi. How are you? If you're speaking to a senior, Katam bhavataha, I think. Yeah. So now in the house, all these people are coming and going and coming back and having darshan of the child and then going around and coming in. But then Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi hear Sanskrit. These people are just conversing, talking in Sanskrit. What's going on? But they couldn't see them. And sometimes they'd see a shadow go by, but with no person attached to it. And they thought it's a ghost, or maybe it's a thief. So it was really amazing. And, in those days, and now too, not as much now as in those days, really in those days, when a child took birth, it was just a huge event. Every single person would come, and give gifts and blessings and all sorts of things. Rice, uncooked rice, raw rice, and things like that, and other grains. So it was a big event. Then Nilamba Chakravarti, who's now the grandfather of Lord Caitanya, he did a horoscope. Yes, he did a horoscope. Let's read about that. It's just brief, but it's from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Srimati Sachi Devi's father, Sri Nilamba Chakravarti, found esoteric and wonderful signs in every house of the child's astrological chart. Actually, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can read, there's all the different signs and the different planets were in this house and in this position, etc. So he found all these just extremely auspicious signs in the child's astrological chart. Sri Chakravarti was astounded by the baby's beauty and saw all divine symbols upon his person, beginning with the markings on the soles of his feet. We read all those. Don't check your feet right now. I mean, you can if you like. You're not going to find them, I'm afraid. Sorry. But yeah, they were all there. So, Sri Chakravarti was astounded by the baby's beauty and saw all divine symbols upon his person. He said, a much accepted prophecy in Bengal is that someday a king will be born in Bengal as a Brahmin son. Only the future will prove whether this is the actual child. So, he was an expert astrologer. He began explaining the ramifications of the different astrological signs in the Lord's chart. The further he delved into the child's exalted chart, the more difficulty he found in describing the Lord's glorious position. He said, Actually, the qualities of this child displayed in his horoscope are beyond those of a king. In fact, they appear to be beyond description. This child will conquer the learning of Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods. He will be the greatest scholar. He will be a natural repository of all divine qualities. Then listen to this, devotees. This is Chaitanya Bhagavat again. Present in that gathering was a great saint in the guise of a Brahmin who suddenly stood up and made predictions on the Lord's future. The Brahmin said, "This child is the Supreme Lord Narayan himself. He will establish the essence of all religion. He will initiate a wonderful preaching movement and deliver the whole world. He will bestow upon everyone that gift which is forever desirable even by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Srila Shukadev Goswami. Upon seeing him, people will feel compassion for all living entities and become callous towards material joys and pains. This will be the greatest benediction for the whole world. Not to mention ordinary men, even hardcore atheists, will worship the lotus feet of this child. He will be glorified throughout the entire creation, and people from all orders of life will come to worship him." So like this, he goes on, and he says, there's more too, but at the end he says, "This child will be known to all as Navadvip Chandra, the moon of Navadvip. He is spiritual bliss personified." The Brahmin did not speak further about Lord Chaitanya's pastime of accepting the renounced order sannyas, since that would have disturbed the loving emotion of his parents. Jagannath Mishra was enthralled with ecstasy over the descriptions of his son. He immediately wanted to offer gifts to that Brahmin. Jagannath Mishra was a poor man with few possessions, yet feeling great jubilation, he fell at the Brahmin's feet and cried. The Brahmin also caught Sri Mishra's feet, and everyone present shouted, "Hari, Hari," in great joy. Ladies from the higher planets mingled freely, yet unnoticed, with the ladies from earth in this wonderful gathering. Then the mother of the demigods, Aditi, approached, smiled, and placed her right hand, which held auspicious grass and paddy, upon the child's head to bless him, saying, "Live long. Please remain eternally in this material world and always manifest your pastimes." Sri Aditi thus explained the expression, "live long." So there you go, devotees. Our time is up. Yes. So, Chaitanya Bhagavat says, Lord Caitanya appeared on the full moon night of the month of Falgun. This day is the most worshipable by Lord Brahma and all other great personalities. This day of the Lord's appearance is the holiest of holy occasions. This day is devotion personified. If one observes properly the appearance day of Lord Caitanya and of Lord Nityananda, he develops pure Krishna prema and cuts asunder the knots of material illusion. And then, as we read, whosoever hears the narrations of Lord Chaitanya's birth is freed from all miseries in this lifetime and at the time of death. Anyone who hears Lord Chaitanya's pastimes immediately gets love of Krishna and becomes his eternal servitor. He comes with the Lord each time he advents in this material world. Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ke, Shri Gopurnima Mahotsava ke, Srila Prabhupada ke, Go Premanande.